My wife cheated on me for 1 year with her boss, but when I found out my two daughters knew everything and lied to my face, I exposed all 3 inches the family chat and destroyed the $60,000 wedding I was paying for. I'm 52 years old. I've been married for 30 years. Or I was, because now I'm in the middle of a divorce that's basically destroyed everything I thought was my life. And the worst part of it all isn't just that my wife cheated on me for almost a year with her boss. No, the worst part is that my two daughters, my babies, the girls I raised and would have given my life for without thinking twice, knew everything and lied to my face over and over again. The truth is, I don't even know where to start with this, but I guess I should go back a bit so you understand how I got here. Sitting in my brother Philip's apartment at 2 inches the morning, writing this because I can't sleep and because I need to get this off my chest before I go completely insane. Michelle and I met when we were like 22, something like that. It was at a mutual friend's party, and honestly, I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. We got married 2 years later. We had Stephanie when I was 26, and she was 24, and then Nicole came 2 years after that. I thought we had a good life, you know? Not perfect, obviously, because no marriage is, but I thought we were happy, that we were a team, that after 30 years together, we knew each other completely. How stupid I was. Seriously. How incredibly blind and stupid I was all this time. Stephanie was always the studious one, the perfectionist, valedictorian of her class. Now she works in finance, making more money than I made at her age. And she's engaged to a guy who comes from a family with money, like a lot of money. Her wedding was scheduled for 3 months from now when all this exploded. Nicole is different, more relaxed, more carefree. She was always the sweet one, the one who would hug me and tell me I love you, Dad, for no reason. The one who still called me like 3 times a week just to tell me random things about her day, or so I thought. Turns out it was all a lie. All those calls, all those I love yous, all while she knew her. Mother was fucking her boss and lying to me every time I asked, how was Mom, or what Michelle had been doing that day. It all started like 2 months ago. On a Tuesday night. Michelle had left her phone on the kitchen table while she was showering, and I was there making myself a coffee because I had to finish a report for work when the screen lit up with a message. I'm not one of those people who checks their partner's phone. I never was. But the message appeared right there on the screen, and I saw it without meaning to. It was from someone named Patrick, and it said something like, "I miss your body. Can't wait until Thursday." Just like that, literal, "I miss your body." I stood there staring at the screen like an idiot, hoping it was a mistake, that I'd read it wrong, that there was some logical explanation, but there wasn't, right? I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. When Michelle came out of the shower, I was already in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but my mind was racing a mile a minute. Patrick was her boss. I knew that because she mentioned that name sometimes when she talked about work, and now it turns out that son of a bitch was sending her messages about missing her body. I wanted to confront her right there, yell at her, demand answers, but something stopped me. I think deep down I already knew that if I did, she'd find some way to turn things around. I make me feel guilty for checking her phone or make up some elaborate excuse. So, I decided to wait, gather evidence, confirm what I already knew in my heart. The next day, which was Wednesday, Michelle told me that on Friday she was going out with the girls, that Stephanie wanted to talk about the wedding and Nicole was going too, that they were going to have dinner at that new Italian restaurant downtown. She kissed me on the cheek when she left for work that morning, told me I love you like she had thousands of times in our 30 years together, and I could only nod and say, me too, while inside I felt like I was disintegrating. Thursday night I installed a tracking app on her phone, one of those that are supposedly for parents who want to monitor their teenage kids, but that basically lets you see someone's location in real time. It was incredibly easy. I did it while she was watching one of her shows in the living room. Took like 5 minutes. Friday came and Michelle got dressed up for the supposed dinner with our daughters. She put on a dress I hadn't seen her wear before. A navy blue one that fit her perfectly and was clearly new. She put on more makeup than she normally did for a casual dinner, and she wore that expensive perfume she only used on special occasions. I should have known right then, should have said something, but I just watched her leave with a smile on her face as she told me, "Don't wait up. I'll probably be back late. I gave her a goodbye kiss at the door, and as soon as her car turned the corner, I took out my phone and opened the tracking app. Like 20 minutes later, I sent a message to Stephanie asking how everything was going, like casual, as if I was just a father asking about his daughter. She responded quickly. Said everything's fine, Dad. We're waiting for Mom. She's running a bit late. Michelle wasn't anywhere near the Italian restaurant. She was at a hotel on the other side of town. I felt like I was going to throw up. I messaged Nicole too, asked her the same thing, and she responded the same way. Mom's on her way. We love you. So my two daughters, the girls I'd raised, who I'd taught that honesty and integrity were the most important things in life, were blatantly lying to me to cover for their mother while she was fucking her boss at a hotel. I don't know what possessed me at that moment, but I grabbed my car keys and drove toward that hotel like crazy. I knew exactly where it was thanks to the app, and when I got to the parking lot, I sat in the car for like 15 minutes trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to go up and confront them, make a scene, destroy everything. But the other part, the more calculating part, told me to wait, that I needed proof, that I needed to document this, for the divorce I already knew I was going to file for. So I waited and waited. And like 2 hours later, I saw Michelle come out of the hotel with a guy who was obviously Patrick. I'd seen him in her LinkedIn profile picture once, and I watched them walk to their cars holding hands, laughing about something, completely relaxed and happy. I took photos, like 20 different photos, some where you could clearly see they were holding hands, others where he kissed her before she got in her car. I had all the evidence I needed. I drove back home. No, wait. I didn't go home. I went straight to the Italian restaurant where they were supposedly having dinner, and I saw them there. Stephanie and Nicole, sitting at a table near the window, eating pasta and drinking wine like nothing was wrong. I stayed in my car in the parking lot and took photos of them too. Photos with timestamps showing exactly what time they were there, while their mother was with her lover. This is where I probably did something petty. I don't know. Maybe childish. But honestly, I don't regret it. I opened our family chat, that WhatsApp group where the four of us were, and I sent the photo of Michelle and Patrick holding hands coming out of the hotel with a caption that said, "What a nice family dinner, right?" Then I put my phone on airplane mode, started the car, and drove to my brother Philip's house, which is like 40 minutes away. I didn't want to be home when Michelle got there. Didn't want the calls, the messages, the excuses, nothing. I just wanted to disappear for a while. Philip opened the door in his pajamas. It was like 11 at night, and he saw me standing there with a suitcase. I don't even remember packing, and he must have seen something in my face because he immediately let me in and made me a whiskey without asking anything. I told him everything, showed him the photos, explained about the girl's lies, and he just listened without interrupting until I finished. Then, he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Nathan, you're going to want to forgive them. You're going to want to find excuses for all of them, but don't do it. Not this time. Because people who betray you like this once will do it again, no matter how much they say they're sorry." He was right, like he always is, that bastard. When I finally turned on my phone, like at 2 inches the morning, I had 47 unread messages and 13 missed calls. I didn't read any of Michelle's messages. I just ignored them all. But I did read my daughter's. Nicole had sent me like 15 messages, all variations of, "Dad, I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. We didn't want to hurt you. We were afraid you'd get angry." Stephanie had only sent me 3 messages, and they were completely different. The first one said, "Dad, you're overreacting." The second, "Mom deserves to be happy too." And the third, "You're being dramatic." I swear when I read those messages, something broke inside me that I don't think can ever be fixed. Saturday morning, like 8 a.m., I went straight to the bank before Michelle could do anything. I canceled all our joint accounts, moved all my money to a new account, I opened only in my name, and took out half the money from our savings accounts, which was totally legal according to my quick 3 a.m. Google research. Then I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but the most aggressive and ruthless guy I could find. One who had a reputation for destroying the other party in divorces. I told him everything, showed him the photos, the messages, everything, and he practically licked his lips with excitement. He told me that with the evidence I had, we could easily prove adultery, and that would favor me in the divorce settlement. Michelle showed up at Philip's house like at 10 a.m. on Saturday. I don't. You know how she knew I was there? Probably Philip is the only obvious place I'd go, and when Philip told me she was outside, I just told him to let her in. She came in with red eyes from crying, smeared makeup, still wearing that blue dress from the day before, and she looked destroyed, but honestly, I didn't feel even a shred of pity. She sat on the couch across from me and started talking, saying she was so sorry, that it had been a horrible mistake, that she didn't know how it happened, all the typical excuses cheaters give, and I just let her talk until she was done. When she finally shut up, I asked her directly how long, and she said it had started like 6 months ago. 6 months. Lie. I showed her the messages I'd managed to recover from her phone before sending that photo to the family group. Messages that went back almost a year, and her face went white. She changed her story, said, well, yes, like 10 months, but that it didn't really mean anything, that I had been distant, that our marriage had become boring, that she needed to feel alive again. All shitty excuses, basically. I told her I wanted a divorce, that I'd already talked to a lawyer, that I'd moved all the money, and that I wasn't going to give her a penny more than was absolutely legally required. Then came the part about the girls. I asked her how long they'd known, and Michelle started crying again. Said that Stephanie had found out like 6 months ago when she saw a message on her phone, similar to how I'd discovered it, and that Nicole had found out like 3 months ago because Stephanie told her. So Stephanie had known basically the whole time and never told me anything, and Nicole had known for months too. I felt like every word Michelle said was a new knife stabbing into my chest. I asked her why the hell the girls agreed to lie for her, and Michelle said she'd convinced them that our marriage was dead anyway, that we were eventually going to get divorced, and that she was just asking them for time to find the right moment to tell me. It was all lies. Everything had been lies for almost a full year. I told Michelle to leave, that I didn't want to see her again except in court, and she started begging, literally on her knees begging me to give her another chance, that we could go to couples therapy, that she'd end everything with Patrick immediately. But I just kept thinking about those messages from Stephanie calling me dramatic, about all those months of lies, about every time my 3 favorite women in the world had looked me in the face and lied without blinking. Philip had to physically remove her from his house because she wouldn't leave, and when she finally left, I sat on that couch the rest of the day, completely numb. Sunday, I decided I needed to talk to the girls, with each one separately, to see if there was any possibility of saving something of our relationship. Nicole was first. We agreed to meet at a park near her apartment, and when she arrived, her eyes were all swollen from crying. She sat next to me on the bench and started apologizing immediately, saying she knew she'd done something terrible, that she felt horrible, that she didn't know how to fix it. I asked her why she didn't tell me when she found out, and she said she was afraid of destroying the family, that she thought maybe Mom would end the affair alone and I'd never have to find out, that Stephanie had told her it was better that way. She was being sincere. I could see that, and part of me wanted to hug her and tell her everything was going to be okay. But the other part, the hurt and angry part, could only think about all the times she'd called me in those 3 months lying about where Mom was or what she was doing. I told Nicole I understood she was in a horrible position, but that she'd still chosen to lie. She'd chosen her mother's side over me, and that had consequences. She asked me what consequences, and I told her honestly that I didn't know yet, that I needed time to process all of this, but that our relationship probably would never be the same again. She cried a lot, hugged me, told me she loved me, and I could only pat her back without saying anything, because if I opened my mouth, I knew I was going to break. We said goodbye, and as I watched her walk away with her shoulders slumped and crying, I felt like the worst person in the world. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't just forgive and forget like nothing had happened. Stephanie was worse, much worse. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop Monday afternoon, and she arrived with her business face on, like all professional and cold. She sat down, ordered a coffee, and waited for me to speak first. I told her the same thing I'd told Michelle, that I knew everything, that there was evidence, that there was going to be a divorce, and she just nodded like she was in a work meeting. Then I asked her how the hell she could justify having lied to me for 6 full months, and you know what she told me? She told me she was just protecting her interests, that she didn't want the family to explode before her wedding, that she needed her dad to pay for her wedding because they'd already sent out invitations and put deposits on everything. I sat there looking at her like she was a stranger, because honestly, at that moment she was. This wasn't my daughter, the girl I'd carried on my shoulders at Disneyland, who'd cried in my arms when her first relationship ended, who'd told me I was her hero when she graduated from college. This was someone completely different, someone selfish and calculating, who had put her perfect wedding above the truth and my emotional well-being. I told her that obviously I wasn't going to pay for her wedding, that she could ask Patrick if he wanted to contribute since keeping up appearances was so important to her, and she got angry, like really angry. She told me I was being ridiculous, that Mom had made a mistake but she was still my wife and their mother, that I was destroying the family out of pride. Pride. As if finding out your wife cheated on you for a year, and your daughters lied to you, was just about wounded pride. I told her that not only was I not going to pay for her wedding, but I was seriously considering removing her completely from my will, along with her sister, and that finally seemed to break her professional facade. She called me cruel, told me I was punishing her for something that wasn't her fault, that she hadn't asked Mom to have an affair. I told her no, but she had asked her to lie to me for half a year, and that had been completely her decision. I left that coffee shop and drove back to Philip's house, feeling like I'd lost my entire family in the span of a weekend. And technically, that's what it was, right? I no longer had a wife. I didn't have daughters I could trust. I didn't have that perfect family I thought I'd built for 30 years. That family was gone. That night, I called my lawyer again and told him I wanted to change my will immediately. That I wanted to remove Michelle, Stephanie, and Nicole as beneficiaries of everything. My life insurance, my retirement accounts, everything. He told me I could legally do that and that he'd prepare the documents. The following days were a blur, honestly. Michelle kept calling me, sending me messages, showing up at places where she knew I might be, trying to talk to me, but I'd blocked her number and told all our mutual friends. I didn't want to know anything about her. Nicole called me crying like every 2 days, apologizing again, begging me to give the family another chance, and every time I told her the same thing, that I needed space, that I couldn't just get over this in a few days. Stephanie sent me a long, angry email, basically telling me I was a bitter old man who was ruining her life, that her wedding was going to be a disaster without my financial help, that all her friends were going to ask why her father wasn't there, and that I was basically embarrassing her on purpose. I read that email like 3 times, and with each reading I got angrier. I never responded. Just sent it to my lawyer as additional evidence of why I was making the decisions I was making. A week later, I received the divorce papers signed by my lawyer, ready to be served to Michelle. And when I saw them there, all official with the court seal and everything, I felt this weird mix of relief and absolute sadness. This was real. It was happening. My 30-year marriage was going to officially end. Philip let me stay at his house as long as I needed, and honestly, I don't know what I would have done without him. He listened when I needed to talk, left me alone when I needed to be alone, and never once told me I was overreacting or that I should forgive my family. He told me the opposite. He reminded me every time I started feeling guilty that they had chosen to lie, that they had chosen to destroy trust, and that I had no obligation to allow them to hurt me again, just because they were my family. Like 2 weeks after the initial explosion, Nicole called me again, but this time she sounded different, less like an apology and more like desperation. She told me that Stephanie was blaming everyone except herself for the wedding disaster, that she was angry at Mom, angry at me, angry at her too for not keeping the secret better. Apparently, Stephanie had managed to postpone the wedding, but was still hoping I'd change my mind and pay for everything eventually. Nicole told me she understood if I could never fully forgive her, but that she missed me, that she wanted to be able to have some kind of relationship with me in the future, even if it was different from what we had before. I told her honestly that I didn't know if that was possible, that every time I thought about talking to her or seeing her, all I could think about were those lies. Every text message where she'd told me Mom was at work when she was probably with Patrick. Every phone call where she'd acted like everything was normal. She asked me if there was any way to earn back my trust, and I didn't know how to answer because I genuinely don't know. How do you rebuild a relationship when the entire foundation was a lie? How do you trust someone again who showed you they're willing to lie to your face to protect someone else? Stephanie, on the other hand, didn't show any similar remorse. She sent me another email like 3 weeks after all this, and it was basically a list of all the reasons why I was the villain in this situation. She said that Mom had only had an affair because I was emotionally distant, because I worked too much, because I didn't pay her enough attention, all things she'd never mentioned before. And that sounded like excuses Michelle had probably put in her head. She said I was being vindictive by not paying for her wedding, that it was my duty as a father to support her on the most important day of her life, no matter what happened between Mom and me, and that I was showing my true character by punishing an innocent daughter for her mother's mistakes. Innocent daughter. As if she hadn't spent 6 full months covering up the affair, as if she hadn't called me dramatic for being devastated by the betrayal, as if the only thing that mattered to her wasn't her perfect wedding and appearances in front of her rich friends. That time I did respond. I sent her a 2-paragraph email telling her that she had chosen to be complicit in the lie, that she'd shown her loyalty was with her mother and not with the truth, and that I had no obligation to finance the wedding of someone who clearly didn't respect me as a father or as a person. I told her that when she was ready to take real responsibility for her actions, instead of blaming everyone else, we could talk. But until then, we had nothing more to say to each other. The divorce is moving forward. Michelle tried to fight for more money, but with the evidence of the affair we have, it's hard for her to get much. My lawyer says it'll probably be done in the next 2 or 3 months, and honestly, I can't wait for all this to officially end. I changed my will. All 3 of them are completely removed. Now everything goes to Philip and some charities I care about. I also changed all my beneficiaries on life insurance and retirement accounts. If something happens to me tomorrow, none of them will see a cent of what I worked my whole life to build, and I don't feel even a little guilty about it. It's been like 2 months since I sent that photo to the family group chat, and I haven't had any direct contact with Michelle since that time at Philip's house. Nicole keeps trying to reach out every couple weeks, short messages asking how I am, telling me she misses me. And I usually respond with something brief like, I'm fine, or I need more time, but nothing substantial. Part of me wonders if eventually I'll be able to have some kind of relationship with her, but honestly, I don't. I know if I want that. Every time I think about trying, I remember everything and the pain comes back fresh like it just happened. Stephanie hasn't contacted me since that last email, and I imagine she's busy trying to figure out how to pay for her wedding now that I'm not in the equation. I heard from Philip, who still talks to some extended family members, that she's trying to get loans and that the fiancé is putting in more money, but that they had to make significant cuts to what they'd planned. He asked me if I felt bad about that, and I told him honestly no, that she made her bed and now she has to lie in it, just like I'm dealing with the consequences of their lies. The house, our house where we lived for 25 years, is for sale. Neither of us wants to stay there. There are too many memories, so we agreed to sell it and split what's left after paying off the mortgage. I've already started looking for my own place, something small, an apartment or a condo where I can start fresh. The idea scares and excites me at the same time, you know? Scared because I'm going to be alone for the first time in 30 years, but excited because it's finally going to be my space, without lies, without betrayals, just me and my new life. There are still days where I wake up and for a second I forget everything happened, and I think I'm going to go downstairs for breakfast and Michelle will be there making coffee like she always did, or that my phone will ring and it'll be Nicole calling to tell me about something random that happened to her. But then reality hits me, and I remember that life doesn't exist anymore, that it probably never really existed, that it was all an illusion built on lies and secrets. Those days are the hardest, the days where I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm being too harsh, if I should try to forgive. But then I think about that message. I miss your body. I think about Stephanie calling me dramatic. I think about a full year of coordinated deception and lies. And I know there's no going back. I can't trust any of them again. And a relationship without trust isn't a relationship at all. It's just people pretending until the next lie comes to light. I don't want to live like that. I don't deserve to live like that. And after 52 years on this planet, I'm finally putting my emotional well-being first, instead of sacrificing myself for people who clearly didn't value my trust or my love. Philip tells me I'm making progress, that each day I'm a little better, a little less angry, a little more at peace with the decision. I don't know if I agree. Most days I just feel numb, like I'm running on autopilot, going to work, coming back to his place, eating, sleeping, repeating. But I guess that's better than the absolute agony of the first few weeks. So maybe he's right. Maybe I'm getting better without realizing it. Last week I saw Michelle at the supermarket. It was completely by accident. Neither of us expected to see each other. She was in the cereal aisle. She looked tired, older somehow, and when our eyes met, she opened her mouth like she was going to say something, but I just turned my cart around and went to the next aisle. I heard her call out to me, "Nathan, wait." But I kept walking, left the supermarket without buying anything I'd gone there to get, sat in my car in the parking lot, and waited for my hands to stop shaking. Seeing her still affects me. I still feel that mix of love and hate and pain that I don't know how to process. But at least this time, I didn't break down, didn't cry, just sat there breathing until I could drive back. I don't know what's going to happen in the coming months or years. If someday I'll be able to have some kind of relationship with Nicole. If Stephanie will ever really understand what she did. If Michelle will stay with Patrick, or if that relationship will also eventually explode. Honestly, I don't care as much as I thought I would. What I do know is that I'm not going back. I'm not going to let them in again just so they can hurt me again when it's convenient for them. My life now is mine. My decisions are mine. And for the first time in decades, I'm choosing myself instead of a family that showed their love was conditional and their loyalty was negotiable. The divorce should be finalized in like 6 weeks, according to my lawyer. Stephanie finally decided on a new date for her wedding. In 5 months, and according to what Philip told me, the fiancé is going to pay for most of it because she couldn't get enough loans. I wasn't invited, obviously, and honestly, I'm glad. I couldn't sit there and pretend to be happy for her, pretend we're a normal family, not after everything. Nicole asked me like 2 weeks ago if I'd consider going even just to the ceremony, that it would mean a lot to her to see me there. But I told her no, that I wasn't ready, and probably never would be. I still wake up some nights with nightmares about that night, about seeing Michelle and Patrick holding hands, about reading those messages from Stephanie, about all the lies falling on me like an avalanche. But each time they're less frequent, and when they happen, I can fall back asleep faster than before. Philip says that's healing, that eventually the nightmares will stop completely and I'll be able to think about all this without feeling that knot in my stomach. I hope he's right, but I'm not rushing it. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and I'm committed to taking it one day at a time until I can finally say, I've gotten over it. 2 days ago, I signed the lease for my new apartment. It's small, a 1-bedroom with a nice living room and a decent kitchen, in a quiet building full of people who don't know me and don't know anything about my family drama. I'm moving in 3 weeks, and the idea of having my own space, of decorating it how I want, of not having to think about anyone else except myself, makes me feel something like hope for the first time in months. It's not going to be easy. I know I'm going to have bad days. Days where I feel lonely and wonder if I made the right decisions. But I also know that eventually I'm going to be okay. I have to believe it, because if I don't believe it, then all of this was for nothing.